Hey everybody, welcome to Twitch Snuffers. I'm your host, Colin Connors. With me as always is my wonderful co-host slash Latina. Oh wait, she's not here? Never mind. But I am joined with a bunch of awesome people to discuss the most recent episode of Survivor, including the amazing Prince Ty.
Good evening.
That girl from Canada, Elise Anderson.
Hi.
And Ben Millier, I don't have a good nickname for him yet.
Hi, friends.
But of course, our very special guest tonight, the number one friend of the podcast, the amazing Billy Garcia. Hey Billy, how are you?
Woo! I'm good. Hi, fans.
All right. So Elise just told me that she missed part of the episode, so we're not going to be talking about Ty finding that third hidden immunity idol that much. So we'll have to check back another time for that. So I guess, Ty, I actually am going to talk with you a little bit because you do the power rankings. I make fun of you about the power rankings because you put yourself out there. We've been talking a lot about Brad Culpepper and where we think he stands in the game. And he got a very early confessional this episode basically saying, I'm kind of screwed, all that stuff. But then by the end of this episode, he's still not really in the loop, but he had some interesting moments throughout the episode. So kind of just what is your take on Brad Culpepper's stance right now?
He still has a chance. I still think he has a pretty decent chance. In as much as he wasn't the target this round, despite arguably being the biggest physical threat out of any of that group. I guess Cierie's been doing a little bit better in the challenges possibly, but overall I feel like he's in a pretty decent spot. He's kind of middle of the road. They still think Cierie's a more dangerous strategist. I think he's safe. I honestly think if things turn next episode, it won't turn on him. It would turn on Andrea for getting a little bit cute, maybe a little bit too soon to get rid of Zeke. I could see her being in danger next episode.
Well, you just said something that I kind of wanted to actually talk to Ben about. Ty said that Brad is the biggest one out there, and it's weird that he's not seen as a physical threat. Now, throughout the history of Survivor, the big, strong guys don't often win all the immunity challenges unless you're someone like Ozzy. Do you think that people playing the game have finally realized, like, hey, some of these big, strong guys aren't actually going to win that many challenges so we can keep them around? Or is Brad just playing a decent social game?
I think it's mostly, I actually want to give him credit and say it's a little bit of the latter, but I was talking to my roommate about it earlier and how like we've seen the progression of Survivor go so much in the last couple of seasons to really like come to the level that we want Survivor to be. And that means being able to fully analyze and comprehend what is the best move and not just making brazen decisions based off of like things like physicality, like very like minute characteristics rather than looking at the dynamic parts of the game. So I think it has a little to do with the former, but I also think that Culpepper has done an above average job at the social game this game. And I think that doesn't hurt him when you look at him versus Cirie, who can come off could have come off more as the person that was running the minority at that point.
So Billy, I guess what I'm trying to figure out is we are in this postmodern era of Survivor. I'm going to say that until it catches on. And famously in the Second Chances merge boot, it was between two girls. It wasn't between any of the small guys on who's going to go home. So do you think we are finally past this point? I mean, obviously you got to vote out Ozzy because he's Ozzy, but big, strong guys, maybe they can finally, have a fair shot at a late game.
I think this particular situation, specific to Culpepper, it has a lot to do with past reputation and what he achieved or didn't achieve the last time he played, as compared to what Andrea and what Cirie and several others who are still in the game achieved past time. So I think the fact that he was an early boot is actually kind of helping him slip under the radar a little bit, and that they perceive threats. That got their focus. I think it's a bigger deal that Cirie's name hasn't popped up in a couple of episodes. I think that's a bigger deal. That's a bigger accomplishment.
And actually, I think we are going to talk about that next, but Elise wanted to chime in.
Oh, yeah. I also wanted to say that in this postmodern era of Survivor, as you say, that challenges, especially post-merge, aren't really the strength-based challenges that they used to be as often. Now it's often a lot of balance. It's often a lot of or if it's a weight challenge, it's proportional to your own weight. So it makes players like Andrea, like Sarah, and like Cirie a lot more of a threat than they may have would have been if it was like, here, just, I don't know, hold
Oh no, that makes a lot of sense, and that's
pounds.
actually something that I've been wondering. Like, if I were to play Survivor, should I target the skinny girl at merge and be like, she's gonna win everything? I'm keeping the football stars and the Cliff Robinsons because they're not gonna win jack.
Or like, look at Ty. He's like strong for his size, and that makes him a big threat in a lot of these challenges, like the endurance ones.
Yeah, and speaking of big threats, I think Billy brought up a fantastic point. Cirie, she was immune basically I think she was immune all of pre-merge, and everyone's like, okay, that's why it didn't happen. The merge happens. Nothing. We're now, 4 boots into the merge, and still her name hasn't come up. And Ty, we saw some excellent social maneuvering from her today when she spoke about, hey, we got to be easy when we talk to Sarah. Hey, we got to ask Sarah how she feels, not just tell her what to do. Why are they letting Cirie do this and let this pontificate about how great she is?
Cirie is, I would argue, possibly the best player ever to win the game. She just has a certain way of speaking and a certain way of comforting people, and like, she just is able to read when two personalities aren't necessarily going to mesh. She had talked to Sarah already. She knew that Andrea, as Billy pointed out, is a New Yorker, and to that end, they can be a little bit pushy and so on and so forth, and that might not go well with Officer Sarah, who's a police officer and kind of likes to dictate her terms rather than the other way around. And she just swooped right in and kind of melded them together to the point where Sarah made the smart decision to not rock the boat yet with regards to saving Zeke, which would have made her the big target that trying to play decision maker in her first season got her in trouble. So like, Cirie is good at recognizing what's good for other people's games and packaging her argument to that. And I feel like that's what happened tonight.
And Ben, why do you think Cirie name hasn't been brought up? Because I mean, Tony right off the bat gone, JT right off the bat gone, Sandra took a couple tries, gone. Cirie, we're now 4 votes into the merge, and she is somehow still here. No one's even really looking at her.
She has a way of disarming people. It's one of her natural strengths. And that has really aided her in being able to get to this point. And she has made her way into a point where she not only has disarmed everybody, but she's gone from the minority to the majority and is currently in control of what's happening in the game. And I am right alongside Ty. I truly believe that she is the best player to ever have won the game. And I think it's the testament to her ability to play this game and play it very well, and in a way that it's not perceived by the people around her, but it can be seen when she shows it.
Basically, what I want to know is, why do you think her reputation hasn't come back to haunt her?
I think that it's because of her personality being able to disarm people. Like, logically, you look at her and think she's a dangerous person in this game, but you actually look at it from when you're actually in the game, and you are to a point disarmed by her personality, not thinking that it will actually affect them short term, and they always think that there's someone else that's going to harm their game more.
That's fair. And everyone wanted to speak, but I wanted to chime in with Billy real quick. Billy, what are your thoughts on Cirie? And do you actually think her not doing well in Heroes versus Villains could have helped her? Because something we always say is, oh, Tony being voted out second is going to help him when he plays again. Oh, Sandra being voted out early is going to help her again. Do you think that actually could be the case? And someone pointed out, Sandra played her 3rd season before anybody left in this game played their 1st season. So, do you think that's helping?
It might in some way, but I think with Cirie, like Zeke pointed out early in the game that she was a threat, and Zeke targeted her. And then what did she do? She brought Zeke into the fold and made Zeke one of her soldiers until it was time to get rid of him, and then she got rid of him. Like, that's and the blame goes on Andrea. That's just part of her genius. I do think that a lot of what Ben was saying, how she's disarming, but I think it's also that she speaks particular ways to certain individuals. She doesn't talk the same way to each person in the game. She made that a point that, like, she keeps calling Officer Sarah because she knows she's not just telling the viewer, she's telling herself, Like this is a different personality than like an Andrea, so you have to speak to her differently. And that's, to me, that's her greatest strength.
Okay. And Elise, you want to comment? I did want to say real quick. She's not the best player to never win. My winner pick, Wu, was the best player to never win. Cirie's a close second. All right, Elise.
Shut the fuck up.
I think the strength in Cirie and not of Wu, unfortunately, as much as I love Wu as well, is that Cirie is incredibly adaptable. Like, she's good in most situations, and especially once she's made it to merge, she's not going to be the biggest physical threat, and she's very good at noticing just what makes every single person tick. And when she comes to you with the plan, it makes sense because or she'll have a way of making it make sense, like with the Eric thing in Micronesia. Like, she's very good at figuring out, like Billy said, what each person is looking for and then playing to that.
So real quick, I'm just going to do a quick yes or no answer. You cannot say anything other than yes or no before we move on. Can Cirie win the season based on what you've seen out of her and her edit? Ty, yes or no?
Yes.
Elise, yes or no?
Yes.
Billy, yes or no? Oh, I think you're. Oh, yeah, but he's lagging a little bit. But he said yes. Ben, yes or no?
Yes.
See, that's really interesting because I feel like she got such a harsh treatment at the beginning of this season. She didn't have a shot, but I don't know. She is getting a lot of really positive screen time. But do you know who's not? And Ty, I'm going to jump to you, but no more Cirie talk. We've been talking about it for like a while. People haven't been getting a lot of screen time, include Aubrey and Troyzan. At this point in this game, can we dismiss them as contenders? And isn't it kind of sad when production does this because it almost takes some of the fun out of the game? And I kind of want to lump Michaela in there too.
We can't lump Aubrey in there because they make a point of giving Aubrey something at least discernibly smart once a week. Like for this week, she got some of the Zeke is shady commentary that kind of narrated the episode. She's not been completely invisible. Troyzan hasn't had a confessional since the merge, so you're right. There is no.
He had the one confessional when he won the immunity.
Oh right, okay. He won immunity. They literally had to have him say something.
Yes.
Okay, fair enough. He is not winning this game. Michaela is probably not winning this game, even though she did get a bit of an emotional soundbite tonight, and apparently may have an uptick because all of a sudden Sarah is investing in her. But she's basically an extension of either Cirie's game or Sarah's game or anybody else's game. It doesn't seem likely that she has her own shot at this point. I honestly think Aubrey could be. I mean, it's fading now, but there's I'd say maybe like a 5 to 10% chance that she's like a dark horse with all these other people picking her off because she's not being looked at as a threat. Yeah. She was the person to piece together the Debbie vote. Like, she's not completely out of it.
All right, but what about real quick? What about Andrea? Because I'm not liking what I'm seeing with her or Sierra.
Andrea and Sierra, I don't like their chances at this point. I think Andrea is going to get picked off. I think Sierra is going to get picked off, probably in that order, based on what we're seeing. But
and the reason why I bring this up, Billy, is because the edits this season have been kind of weird. We had people like Tony, who still has more confessionals than Aubrey and Sierra combined, or something stupidly crazy like that. We had big people like JT and Sandra. Varner had a fair amount of screen time, and then a whole bunch of screen time. The way they edited the season, it was very front-loaded. What kind of surprises me is how I thought the merge would come and the confessionals would trickle down, but still we only seem to have 2 or 3 main characters. What do you make of that? And do you think it's bad television to only have 3 realistic contenders, or is that just how it kind of should be?
I think it's how it's playing out. I don't think it's that the editors are trying to manipulate in this case. I think this season's editing, to some extent, not to completely, not 100%, but 75% wise, is reminiscent of my season, Cook Islands, where all the characters were pre-merged with the cowboy and the Flicka and myself.
And the Billy.
Yeah, it was very front-loaded with characters. And then when you got later, you had the Yule and the Becky, and it's not exactly riveting TV, right? With those guys, these guys are a little better.
I don't know. Becky's pretty awesome. Why the woo?
Yeah, she killed it. She killed it in that fire challenge. Yeah, but yeah, so,
yeah, she killed all right.
Yeah, exactly.
So do you think, Billy? Do you think production, and this is something we always debate about, should at least try to like give everyone some screen time so the brutes aren't obvious, or should they just try to tell whatever story they want to tell? Because I mean, sometimes not giving people brutes, and Caramoan sucks, and that season was awful because we already knew it was going to happen. Then you have a season like One World where it's not amazing, but you know the brute, like the confessionals, kind of told the story of everything pretty accurately.
Okay, well, I'm gonna ask you, if you were the producer, how do you give a player like, let's say, Rick or Tarzan, like confessional time? When Rick says nothing but "yep," and Tarzan is like, "The game is afoot," and that's the only quote he's got. Like, how do you do it? If they don't actually give you material, there's nothing you can do. Like, you can't like CGI it. Like, you can't. There's nothing you can do. So if you got players that are not giving you stuff to put up there, well, you tell me. If you were, you know, I think you said you were into film and all that. What would you do?
Oh, no, I'm just saying, I'm just trying to play devil's advocate because I think what's interesting is that I think you need to make it so the viewer always knows people are there. Like, to me, it's kind of shenanigans they couldn't throw Troyzan a bone here or there and maybe basically try to develop one story with each player and then kind of have it go and then highlight the – but that would be really, really hard to do. But it should never be like Caramone.
Yeah, giving you from the insider's point of view, just real quick.
Yeah.
There are players that are literally scared to death to go to confessionals because they know that as soon as they're gone, they're going to be talked about. So they just flat out refuse the confessionals. They just Fairplay said on his second go round, he refused most of his confessionals because he knew like his name was on a chopping block and he didn't want to leave. A certain someone who's in jail right now, he told me that when he played in Philippines, like time and time again, he would refuse confessionals because he was constantly on the block post merge. So I think Troyzan being on the bottom, especially now, isn't going to give up confessionals just to not be talked about. And
I just want to point out, Danny Boatwright famously didn't give the producers much of what to work with in Guatemala because she was afraid they were going to rig it for Stephanie. So they're very there is like a strategy in giving confessionals and not giving confessionals. Elise and Billy both wanted to say something. I think Elise was first, so go ahead.
Yeah, I also think it's really odd this season with how it was edited because, like Billy said, the amount of big characters. And like it also comes down to who's a good narrator. Like we see Zeke was really good at being a narrator. Sandra was a great narrator, like a villainous narrator for the first half. And when you're throwing like, okay, you need to explain what's going on at camp, are you going to give it to someone as dynamic as and such an icon of the series as Sandra, who you know isn't going to be around that long but is a great narrator? Or let's say you have someone like, I don't know, like, who are you talking about? Like, you even forget, like, let's say Ty being like, oh, yeah, Ty just doesn't.
And that's actually true. Ty hasn't had that much screen time since she's found those idols. And, Billy, you just made an interesting point. You said Aubrey is the narrator now. So my whole thing of saying, hey, we can dismiss Aubrey, you think that's just pure shenanigans. You think she has a shot at this.
It's not that she has a shot. It's that she's telling the story. You know, I'm not saying she's completely out of it, but she's the one telling the story. She's the one giving the producers, you know, what they need in order to clue in the fans into what's going on. So she gets the limelight, she gets the spotlight. That doesn't mean necessarily that she'll win or lose, but she's the one telling the story. So if she's telling it, and let's say Troyzan is not, then who gets the airtime?
Very fair point. So I did want to talk just kind of briefly about the challenges, not just this episode, but overall. We all love them, right? They've all been pretty freaking kick-ass this season, right? No objections, nothing crazy. Nothing. All right.
No, I would just say the puzzles this season have been an equalizer more than in any other season.
And that's actually what I was going to bring up. Like, I understand production wants to keep it exciting by having them like jump into a river and like punch a bear or something in order to get a puzzle piece. But then all these puzzles take like an hour to do. So I kind of want to say like, okay, either make the puzzles easier or don't make them do all that other excess crap, because it's always like no point. What do you say to that, Billy? As someone who's been in these challenges, do you think like, you know, production knows it's going to take an hour for them to solve the puzzle because they have the dream team, and why can't, you know, I don't know. It just seems it's a little messed up to me.
No offense to the dream team, but they're never as good as the actual players. The dream team actually sees the construction of the challenge, so they have an advantage there, and then they don't have the stakes involved that'll push a player to the brink. Like I always think of like Boston Rob in his last go round where he's wheezing, halfway falling over. He really pushed himself to the brink, and that's because it was so much at stake. I think he felt he was never going to get another shot. So the dream team never had that. So you can never really go by what the dream team does or doesn't do. They're just there to make sure that there isn't a fatal flaw in the challenge that'll get somebody killed or completely like ruin the integrity of who won.
I like it. And something I want to point out is you've been describing how the dream team doesn't play as intentionally as the players. In Survivor Worlds Apart, when they were doing the reward challenge where they were pulling up the like platforms and one fell on Kelly's head and it like busted her head open, Probst even said during the EW interview after that, so he goes, "We did the dream team. They all took it nice and slow in doing those platforms, so we never even like, you know, they couldn't play it like how the players did it because the players were doing it super urgent because they wanted the food, they wanted the rewards, whereas the dream team was doing it slow, so they didn't realize how easy it was to make the platform slip and fall and almost kill Kelly." So that's pretty exciting.
One that was the first challenge for the life of me, I can't remember the player's name. She
Courtney in One World.
She broke her wrist jumping onto the cargo net.
Yeah, Courtney.
Courtney. Like every dream teamer jumped into that cargo net and were perfectly fine, and then they run a challenge. The first player that goes over breaks their wrist. Like that's.
Courtney for second chances. You and her better form a secret alliance. Okay? Billy's lagging a little bit, but he's going to take a secret alliance with Courtney. Okay, so we've talked about the reward challenges and how fantastic they are. What I want to know, Ben, is the highlight of kind of the reward challenge was Brad talking with Zeke and bonding a little bit, and that put, you know, Andrea on high alert. Do you think it was right for Andrea to kind of read the like cadence of that, or not cadence, kind of like the subtlety of that conversation to something bigger, or do you think she was just looking for an excuse to get rid of Zeke?
I didn't see like we don't know how much we saw. Like we saw what the editing showed us. It didn't seem like wicked glaring. Like they talked about a football game. Like honestly, not the most shattering of interactions in the world.
Yeah.
And so like
two guys talk about a football game.
Like who knows? They have a full day confessional. Full day reward. They're there overnight. We just don't see like the fact we saw other confessionals by other players saying the same thing, that they saw that. So we have to take that into account. Like multiple people see that, so multiple people believe that. So maybe we just were not privy to what caused that to happen, because what we saw wasn't anything that.
And it is important to point out, though, even though Andrea was seeming paranoid, Zeke did go up to them and say, "Hey, let's do a final three." Ty, I believe you wanted to make a quick comment on this.
I'll be honest with you, until Andrea got the soundbite about the whole Zeke thing, I honestly thought that Zeke was going to complain about Culpepper, because Culpepper brought up a football game in which Oklahoma got absolutely crushed by Tim Tebow and Urban Meyer's Florida Gators. So, like, it wasn't a pleasant memory for Zeke to relive that football game that Brad Culpepper was randomly bringing up. So, honestly, the whole thing struck me as Andrea wanted to get rid of Zeke and was going to make it happen, and she ended up making it happen because Zeke is Zeke and makes his plays and so on and so forth. But, like, at first I didn't think that that was, like, going super well for Brad because Zeke seemed to not want to talk about it.
Is it weird because that when I saw that kind of boring little thing in Andrew's confessional, I thought, oh, Cierie's going home. They're just trying to fill up some airtime before it. You know, they're just trying to, like, create some fake drama. Okay, so, Billy, we are going to jump to you, and I want to hear your thoughts on it. Billy would like to point out that Google Chrome is messing him up. It's not our fault here at Twitch Service. We only have the best internet connection provided by Sprint. Be sure to subscribe. Are they paying me to say that? Yes. All right, Billy, go ahead.
Yeah, I think from what you guys were talking about, like a lot of Andrea's game is that kind of making her really vilified right now. Is basically like what we said last week, that she's a New Yorker, and she the attitude just comes in, and so she's very vilified right now. I think she's our top heel of the season now that Debbie's gone. And yeah, I don't see her. I don't see that working out for her at all. I think a spectacular crash and burn for her.
Yeah. And we are going to change subjects real quick. And something, Elise, I want to talk to you about was Sarah, of course, is getting a lot of screen time. Ty loves her. I don't think she's going to be able to get away with it. She might be able to if she lasts a little bit. But Sarah told Cirie about her advantage. And the advantage, for those who don't know, is that not only can she do an extra vote at tribal council, she can steal someone else's vote.
She didn't tell Cirie. She told Cirie.
Okay, yeah, she told Cirie. Anyways, Elise, was that bad gameplay for her just to up and admit that she had this advantage?
I mean...
Oh my goodness, it sounds like you're in a helicopter.
Oh, sorry. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can, but real quick, because this is burning my ears.
Okay. Yeah, sorry. I just wanted to say that I don't know if it's such a great plan, but if you're gonna tell anyone and you trust Cirie's gonna be the one who will figure out how to use it to the best of your advantage. It might be the best to Cirie's advantage now that you've told her, but if you don't know what to do with it, Cirie can probably help you out there.
And Billy, you just said told the best player in the game. I love that. So you actually disagree. You don't think it was a good review. I mean, why tell anybody about an advantage? Ty didn't tell Troy's about his 15 idols. Together they have 3 idols. They could have done something crazy with that. I just realized that. They had 3 idols. They could have changed everything. Anyways, go ahead.
But yeah, no, Cirie's the best player in the game. If there is a player that, could take somebody's advantage away from them and put it to where it eliminates the person with the advantage and helps them further in the game, Cirie's already done that in the past in Micronesia with Eric Reisenbach. So I'm not saying that that's going to be the case with Sarah, but Cirie has that kind of skill. I would never tell Cirie like what kind of an advantage or any kind of real information for that matter, because she's too good.
Okay, so Ben, and I just saying like, why didn't Troy's and Ty combine all 3 idols to make 3 out of the 4 safe and therefore get themselves around further? Why do you think that for today? Because I mean, they split their votes between Ty and Cirie. Like they all voted for each other. Why do you think they couldn't stay together? And do you think they could actually come together now and be a solid 4?
I think the reason that they didn't have like so much solidity, I don't know. Solidarity. Is because I think that they all had different plans within that 6, and I don't think that I think that conflicted. Like, I don't think like their plans conflicted, so like they like precipitated their own downfall, I would say. And like I think that's why they like turned on each other. Like they didn't feel comfortable like going on any further. They were more individualistic.
But do you think
I like that. Like I'm glad that like it surprises me that they were able to do that. Do I like I personally wish that they did like realize that they had the 3 idols in their possession, because I thought that could have been a really cool foil in addition to what ended up happening. But,
oh yeah, all 3 played their idols and then Zeke goes home. Oh, that would have been embarrassing.
So I'm excited to see, like, I hope that they do rejoin, because I want that to be a thing, because I think like we've never seen like somebody have like 3 idols and like run like that. So
I agree. It could be some really good television. But Ty, do you think those 4 people could come back together after tonight and go, like, Troy's going to look at Ty and go, hey, I'm sorry I voted for you, but, we were 4 before. The 4 is now, just 1 away and we stay together. They look at Ty looks at Cirie and goes, hey, I voted for you, but, we're 1 away from – we all stay together, we're 1 away from having a majority.
I feel like this group of 4 can – I mean, every group of 4 is different, but this particular group of 4 – I feel like what we'll get a confessional about Ty's paranoid because he got 3 votes, but I have 2 idols, so if my name ever comes up, I'll use them. Ha 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 ha. and then we'll see someone smarter than Ty telling Ty a plan, and that's the plan that Ty will go with. And if that happens to be Cirie, Brad, and/or Troyzan in any form or fashion, that's what will end up happening. So it could happen, depending on what the hell happens with Sarah and Michaela, since that's going to be the crux of next episode, I think.
I agree with you, Billy. I believe you wanted to comment on that, and then I actually wanted to do another little comment real quick.
Yeah. I not only do I think the four can get together, I think we saw foreshadowing of what will happen. I think the four will get together and Sarah will flip. Foreshadowing for most of the second half of this episode. So why foreshadow it if it's not going to mean anything? So that's where I think it's going to go.
And I agree. Sarah is getting. There's like four is Cirie, Cirie. There's too much of that going on. I can't even get Elise. I can't even get Alicia and Elise straight. This is too much for me this season. I have to say though, I want to go on a little bit of a tangent, and I didn't go on it earlier. I absolutely hate the vote stealing twist. I think it is obnoxiously too powerful. Having one extra vote, okay, I can kind of see it, but being able to basically nullify someone and then get another vote, I do think is OP. That's what all the cool kids say. And it's one of those things where if you combine that with the hidden immunity idol, stuff gets crazy. I don't know. Ben, or at least I haven't heard from you in a while. Maybe it doesn't sound like you're in a helicopter anymore. Do you think this twist is just a little too powerful?
Yeah, I could see it being too powerful. I mean, I guess it depends who you're stealing it from that makes all the difference. But no, I'd rather see something like, I'm not a huge fan of the extra vote to begin with. So I prefer just your regular idols. I don't know. Maybe I'm boring and living in the past, but.
I mean, I kind of think regular hidden immunity idols are the way to go. Billy, you're on Survivor. It's Final 5. You go to vote me out. I go, nah, I got this extra vote. I'm stealing Billy's vote, and then we vote you out. How pissed would you be?
Oh, I'd be very pissed. But if you're in the Final 5 and you steal my vote, and I have an idol, doesn't that tell me to play the idol?
Okay. So what you're saying is that okay. And this right here is why we do this, because Billy just made a fantastic point. If someone steals someone's vote, and it's not even if, like, let's say Billy, you steal my vote, and I have an idol. Not only does that signal me I should play the idol on myself. If, let's say, Ty's in an alliance with me and you steal my vote, that's Ty's cue. Hey, I should play an idol on Colin.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe
except I would only use my idol on myself because fuck you. But I mean,
that's fair. So basically, what you're saying is for all future Survivor players is never steal the vote from the person you actually plan to vote against. Steal it from someone in their alliance. Just in case there's a hidden immunity idol, they would play the idol on the person you stole the vote from.
Exactly.
Damn.
Unless you're tied, you got two idols, and you can just play one on yourself and one on the other guy.
Exactly. All right, so this is why we do this, and this is why I love having you on, Billy, because you always have fantastic ideas. So that is kind of a way to nullify a little bit of the vote stealing. I still think it's a bit of shenanigans, though. So where we're at right now is Zeke was seen throughout this whole season as someone who was constantly scheming and calculating all that stuff, and his confessionals kind of spoke to that. However, he never really had full control of the game, if I'm not mistaken. He was in a couple majority alliances, but he never seemed to be able to get his feet off the ground. So what I want to know is, Ben, people like Zeke that have this perception of being like these mastermind folks, how much does that doom them? Because did Zeke even really have a chance?
I think he had a chance. I think that while he didn't have much control, what he did is he had control over the perception that he had of the game, which was very well attuned. So I think that that's where you can see his skill in the game, and that's where I can see his skill in the game, at least. So I think that's I think he's given that credit because he is attuned to the game, not necessarily because he was able to change things in this game, because he wasn't really.
And Ty, I believe you want to comment. I'm going to jump to Billy and Elise, but real quick, guys, rapid fire.
I'll say this. Zeke had a chance. He just was impatient. And he was impatient because he didn't have a chance from learning from his first season to maybe not make the move too soon. Because he made the move too soon the first time went right back out there, made the wrong move too soon the second time. If he had made that move against Andrea a couple rounds afterwards, after people like Cirie were gone, and people like Sarah were the only ones who had to trust him, he could have gone much further. But he didn't, so he's gone.
And I just want to point out real quick before I jump to the other people, no one that's played a back-to-back season has actually won on that back-to-back season. So I really do think there's a lot to be said about having to, after you play your after you play your first season, to take some time and just kind of recoup from the game. Billy, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, listening to Cirie's confessional where she goes, Zeke knows the game better than her, and she's played 4 times. It sounds like Zeke has had conversations with some people, maybe running different scenarios, and a lot of his reputation is just based on all these hypothetical scenarios that he's thrown out in idle conversation. To where I think that's something that might have worked against him in this particular season. And
I agree, because I mean, you don't want to be the guy that's like, hey guys, episode 12 we're gonna have a swap. All right, episode 15 that's when the clue comes in. It gets a little bit much. Elise, you did want to comment, and you still sound like you're in a helicopter, but I'm gonna let you speak anyways.
Oh, sorry. I was gonna kind of say what Ty was saying with that he had a chance, because until he outwardly betrayed Andrea and Cirie and that group, I think they still would have been fine with him, because sure, he may be shady, but at least as long as we can trust him, it's fine. I think when he did that and it didn't work out for him, he was just kind of tanked his own game at that moment.
And that's very fair, because it's almost like Zeke, was the devil that, or, the shade we can trust, which might be the name of tonight's episode, unless we can think of a better one. So that's just kind of how we view Zeke's shenanigans. So Zeke played in Millennials versus Gen Xers. Who else played in that? Michaela, who fantastic at it, Millennials versus Gen Xers. This season has gotten horrible at it. But Ben, we did see her cry at voting out Zeke, and that's, to me, is like with Michaela, we've been seeing a raw amount of emotion, but it's all been kind of shifted towards anger and almost like shiftlessness. And then tonight she gets an extremely smart confessional explaining about how, about the game. And then we see her crying about Zeke. Could there be a Michaela comeback?
It hit. That was just wonderful. That was wonderful development. A+. Good job. That, you can't write that shit. Do I think she has a chance? No. I don't think there's any chance for Michaela revival. She hasn't been seen at all this season, so she's fodder until some point. She's not going to get to an end unless she does get goated in some way, but I doubt that.
But I mean, are we seeing some redemption from her, Billy? Seeing her cry tonight, does that help her?
I think what we saw was a kind of Survivor moment that'll bring her back in the future. I don't think it's a Survivor moment that'll signal her comeback in this game. I think this is more speaking of what we expect to see her from the future, or why we would expect to see her in the future. Speaking real quick to what you just said, a minute ago, about not trusting Zeke and why they took him out.
Okay.
This is why in my opinion, that group is going to lose, because the 4 have been betrayed by Sarah, but they will bring her back anyway. They'll work with her. So yeah, that's why I think Andrea is, as much as I love Cirie, I think that's why they're going to lose, because they'll betray one of their own and not be willing to forgive and forget. Just remember, not forget, but forgive and remember it's Survivor. Of course, it's going to be betrayal.
And that's the thing, is I can easily picture Brad and Cirie and Ty and all of them going, we all voted for each other. That's what we had to do. We're 4. There's only 9 people. Let's hug it out. And Ty, you wanted to make a comment real quick.
I was just going to point out that Michaela's now in personal growth territory. Personal growth almost never wins. So we like her more now. I mean, I always liked her. I liked her when she was 17 and shit. But, we all feel a little bit better that she's redeemed herself. And honestly, I think Andrea's toast. I think Cirie is still fine, because Michaela has an emotional connection to Cirie, too. So that could be a bridge to bring Sarah and Cirie to work together after all of this. That and the fact that Cirie always deferentially refers to Sarah as Officer Sarah and shows that respect that Sarah likes and such. So I think Michaela could be important, but she's not going to win.
And that's very fair. And it's just interesting to see if they're trying to give Michaela like a kind of a comeback, like a redemption arc. Because normally in Survivor season, someone gets that, but it's not after we just saw them play in a season and them get edited really, really, really well. So that's where like the Michaela thing is kind of confusing. It's weird to give someone like a, hey, they kind of sucked, but now they're good at it after they gave us an edit, 7 months ago, being like, hey, this person was the bomb. It just luck turned against them.
It is weird, but at the same time, you have to hype up a pre-merge player to come back, so make her look as good as possible, so you're excited when she's back. So
that's a very good point. So with all of this being said, is there any other final thoughts? Is there anything that we want to talk about? I believe Billy wanted to comment on Debbie's actions at Tribal Council. Those fantastic moments.
Yeah, I think she was stealing Tribal in bits and pieces. First with the middle finger, and then when one person says that's game changers, or they're game changers, and she replies they're idiots. So if Sarah makes it to the end, it's gonna be fireworks when Debbie gets to stand up and speak. It's gonna be Sue Hawk 2.0.
One thing is though, I think much like regular Sue Hawk with Debbie or Sarah, I think if Sarah could get to the end, she could make a case for herself. I'm just shocked she is doing as well as she is with all this flipping. But I don't know. I actually think there's a good chance he's going to come back and bite her in the butt, but we will see. So before we wrap, any other little thoughts? Ty, did you want to say something real quick?
Stop trying to say that I'm wrong, because I'm not wrong. Stop it. Stop it right now.
I got to play the foil. Real quick.
Stop it.
Let me just do something for all the viewers and listeners out there. When watching this show, you may think that I don't have any opinions about Survivor. I actually have very, very strong opinions. But my job as a host is to play devil's advocate. So I often will argue points that I don't believe in just to make good television or good YouTube vision. But with all of that being said, Rue was the second best player to never win the game. Or he is the best. Cirie is the second best.
What about Hannah? What about Hannah?
Actually, you're right. You're right. You're right. It's Rue, Hannah, Keith, then Cirie. Best players to never win the game. I will see all of you guys next week. I want to thank Elise. I want to thank Ty. And, of course, I want to thank the wonderful Billy Garcia for joining us tonight, even though his internet was crappy. And for all of you that watched us, even though we were 10 minutes late, I promise you we'll only be 7 minutes late next week. Have a good night. Bye.